Welcome to our channel. We're so happy to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe and help us hit our goal of 100,000 subscribers. While historians can argue about when exactly the Civil War ended, the widely accepted narrative states that it came to a close on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. It's not so much that the Armenian genocide wasn't photographed, it's that the event itself has been so marginalized by history books that any image is, for most, a revelation. While as many as 1.5 million Armenians perished in Turkey, almost as great as the percentage of Jews who would die in Nazi-controlled Europe, between 1915 and 1922, much of the world has forgotten. In many ways, the technological advancements pioneered by Thomas Edison and other prominent 19th-century inventors gave birth to modernity. Because of Edison inventions like the light bulb, the motion picture camera, and the phonograph, people now had entirely new ways to record and communicate the human experience for both ourselves and the generations that followed. This is what a traffic light looked like in New York City in 1929. Even traffic lights were art back in the day being 1929, of course. Among the countless clashes between U.S. settlers and Native Americans, the Wounded Knee Massacre stands apart to this day. On December 29, 1890, U.S. troops followed orders to disarm Native Americans they'd forcibly relocated to a camp near Wounded Knee Creek, South Dakota. Accounts vary, but most say a scuffle started after one Lakota refused to give up his rifle. In the end, more than 400 troops killed as many as 300 Lakota men, women, and children, and wounded another 50. The regiment then buried the Lakota in a mass grave. This is legendary architect Frank Lloyd Wright visiting the Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota in 1956, which was the very first mall constructed in the U.S. and had opened just a couple of weeks earlier. Like Wounded Knee, the Battle of Little Bighorn retains a special place in the history of settlers and Native Americans. Fought near the Little Bighorn River in southern Montana on June 25 and 26, 1876, this U.S. defeat at the hands of the Lakota and accompanying tribes became famous for Custer's Last Stand, the ill-fated charge of troops led by George Custer, resulting in his death and the death of most of his men. Before he retired from baseball, the legendary Lou Gehrig auditioned for the role of Tarzan. They made him carry and a spear and everything. Apparently, he didn't get the job because of his massive legs. The Klondike Gold Rush is such a rough-and-tumble chapter in U.S. history that it's strange to think that cameras actually documented it. Yet of the approximately 300,000 people who flocked to northwestern Canada in search of gold between 1896 and 1899, a few owned and brought cameras. This is what a television set looked like in the mid-30s. TVs existed back then, but they were expensive and rare. Because of World War II, the development of television was delayed and stopped for years. Even more remarkable than the images from the Klondike Gold Rush are those of the famed California Gold Rush 50 years before. This photo of President James K. Polk was taken in 1849 and is the first photo taken of a president of the United States while they were in office. In today's world of interstate highways, instant communication, and drone delivery, it's almost impossible to understand the earth-shaking significance of the day workers completed America's first transcontinental railroad at Promontory Summit, Utah, on May 10, 1869. CBS's Face the Nation has had many politicians and world leaders appear on the program since it debuted in 1954. But you might not know that Che Guevara was among them. In December 1964, Guevara appeared on the program while in New York. This is a photo of him taken on the show. In 1931, two psychologists, Winthrop and Luella Kellogg, began an experiment to see if a chimpanzee could learn human behavior by raising it with their own baby. The idea was to see if the chimp, named Gua, would learn to walk upright, speak, and engage in other human-like activities. One of the biggest fads of the 1950s was phone booth stuffing, wherein a bunch of people would, well, stuff themselves into a phone booth. The world record at the time was 25 people stuffed into a phone booth, truly an example of the triumph of the human spirit. Actress Anita Ekberg meets paparazzi outside of her house with a bow and arrow after being relentlessly followed by them all night. 1960. Emperor Napoleon III, the last monarch to rule France, with his wife Empress Eugénie and son Louis Napoleon, circa 1865. Man poses for a photo in front of Soyuz rocket, 1980s, Baikonur, Kazakh, SSR. Mexican brachero worker is sprayed with DDT in processing center in El Paso, Texas, 1956. In some centers, they were given a shower of kerosene which caused the death of 25 people once. A menorah stands on the windowsill of a Jewish home across from Nazi Party headquarters in Kiel, Germany, in 1932. A Dutch athlete receives a portrait of Adolf Hitler as a sports prize. Welcome to our channel. We're so happy to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe and help us hit our goal of 100,000 subscribers. A French woman welcomes an American soldier 2 days after liberation. Strasbourg, France, 22nd November, 1944. U.S. Marines holding scaled-up models of rifles at Camp Pendleton in October 1956. A picture taken by my German ancestor, the enemy Russians standing over their trench, World War I Eastern Front 1917. Ota Benga, 1904 to 1906. Mbuti Pygmy, born in Congo Free State in 1885. He was sold to an American explorer for display at the 1904 World's Fair. He was then housed in the Bronx Zoo Primate House. The last photograph of the complete Israeli team at the 1972 Munich Olympics before 11 of them would be kidnapped in the early hours of the next morning and eventually killed by Palestinian terrorists. Florence Thompson, the migrant mother in Dorothea Lange's famous 1936 photo, holds up her likeness during an interview after her identity was made known, October 10, 1978. An Indian woman, a Japanese woman, and a Syrian woman, all training to be doctors at Women's Medical College of Philadelphia. October 10, 1885. A barge filled with Kherson watermelons on the Dnipro River, 1984. Kyiv, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Bryn Owen, aged 17, with his Vespa scooter, which has 34 mirrors and 81 lights on the front and back, all bought with his pocket money, Leicestershire, England, 1983. Dr. Joe Madison Crow, last war chief of the Crow Nation. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II. He led a raid against a German position, disarming them and taking them prisoner. He then stole their horses. He died in 2016, aged 102. Violet and Daisy Hilton, conjoined twins born in Brighton, 1908. Unusual and rare photograph of Winston Churchill feeding his pet white kangaroo, Digger, the only albino kangaroo in Europe, at London Zoo, Regent's Park, 1948. On July 28, 1945, an American B-25 bomber crashed into the Empire State Building. After the pilot got lost in a heavy fog, killing 14 people and causing $1 million in damages. Firefighters rescued one survivor named Betty Lou Oliver and placed her in an elevator with cables damaged by the fire, resulting in her plunging 75 floors. Miraculously, she survived. A worm vending machine, 1957. This is the cover of the very first issue of Vogue magazine, published on December 17, 1892. Photographer Otto Ludwig Bettmann captures the Grand Prix Monza in 1966, a public urinal located in Paris, 1875. Animal medical therapy in 1956. This is the first photo of the very first broadcast of a human face transmitted on television. The photo was taken when John Logie Baird gave the world's first public demonstration of television at his laboratory in London. A German paratrooper carries a wounded sergeant, 1942. A Desert of Fire, Kuwait, 1991. Woman jumping over 6 of her classmates, 1952. Walt Disney, 1906, with his sister Ruth. The picture from 1930 shows what the Empire State Building looked like while it was under construction.